Welcome back to another video. It's Akhil. This is going to be a slight spin-off episode. You probably saw the title. I'm going to probably title it The Female Question. And it's been a little while since I made a video, obviously. I actually made this entire video before, and the audio was bad. So that's just life. Anyway, so I have to refilm it. I had to wait until I got a new microphone, and here it is. So I know you don't give a shit about that, and this probably kills all the retention, but I don't care. I'm not making this for people who are going to click off anyway. So yeah, what is the female question? Well, this is really just a video of, it's really just a philosophical, it's really just an ideology explanation. I guess it's kind of like a clickbaity title, but really it's just, it's going to be like some ideology that I think, and just questions that I think through, because I like to analyze things, especially large life decisions. And I like to really take it under a microscope and really analyze why we do things, so that I can come to a clearer picture, so that I can make a proper decision on the subject at hand. So let's talk about the female question. So what is the female question, you may ask? Well, it's really just the question of what is the nature of a relationship? People pursue relationships, whether it's with the opposite sex or the same sex. It's all bullshit. Well, it's not bullshit, but it's all irrelevance, and it's all, I'll get into why right now. So, first things first, okay? When you talk about relationships, right, we have to first understand why people get engaged into relationships, okay? So, really, it's an evolutionary desire. Okay, we can establish that point. If you sum it all up, it's an evolutionary desire, right? Your body is evolutionarily designed to engage and desire a relationship with the opposite sex. Correct. Okay, now that we established that point. So, why the hell does this happen? Well, first of all, if you don't desire the opposite sex, you are less likely to reproduce. In fact, you're probably unlikely to reproduce at all, because you don't desire it. So, evolutionarily, we desire the opposite sex so we can reproduce. Okay, now that you establish this point. So, okay, that's great. Now, in the modern age, okay, what does the opposite sex offer you? Okay, what is a woman? I'm only going to speak in my perspective, because that's the only person I know. What does a woman offer you? Okay, if you're not looking to reproduce and have a child, then the only other thing that a woman could offer you, okay, is going to be some sort of like bond or relationship, which is pretty much useless if you actually look at actionable steps. Because at the end of the day, what goal are you trying to optimize for, right? It's not, for me, it's not for feeling good. I couldn't care less if I'm happy. I couldn't care less if I'm sad. I just want to accomplish and understand the nature of the universe, right? I want to understand knowledge. Okay, we've established that point. That is the primary objective. I guess the secondary objective is to take care of the people that are in and around me, but that's still an evolutionary desire to protect the pack around you. That is not a realistic, it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. Only the pursuit of knowledge means anything, right? Everything beside that is basically just an evolutionary desire designed to replicate and propagate the current species that you are, obviously humans. So, family aside, main objective, understanding the nature of the universe, learn things. The term I like to coin, which I've in recent days kind of realized, is I'd like to be free. I'm actually looking for freedom from the misery of ignorance, because we're all very ignorant of the things around us, right? Like if you go back 2,000 years, people were very ignorant of their surroundings, so they were not able to. For example, if you go 2,000 years, it doesn't matter how much you want it, you cannot fly across the world and get to the other side of the world within a day. Well, now that you understand the knowledge, you have acquired that freedom to fly across the world and do that thing. So basically, the pursuit of knowledge is actually just the pursuit of freedom. Because at the end of the day, you pursue knowledge. At the end of the day, is to acquire the highest amount of freedom. You are unable to do things. For example, we are unable to explore the galaxy simply because we don't know how to. Therefore, what we're actually looking for is freedom through knowledge. Okay, now that we've established that point, let's get back to this was a giant little tangent so that you understand the context of what I'm about to get into. So, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. So, now let's get into what does a relationship offer to any human? Okay, so there's only two dynamics that could really work out. you're engaging in a relationship because you want to propagate the species, right? You want to have children, okay? That makes sense, right? You may want to have as many wives as possible so you can have as many children as possible, but that is actually very inefficient. Okay, whatever. It is actually very inefficient. Here's why. Because a child takes approximately, let's just say, 20 years to develop properly, okay? Realistically. And even then, it's questionable whether they're actually useful for anything. It takes really like 30 years to develop a really useful human being. It takes about 20 years to develop in general. But it takes 9 months for a lady to obviously deliver a child, and then another 20 years before that child is even competent or capable of doing anything. And that is for one child. Obviously, if you have multiple children with multiple women, you can concurrently do that and speed up the process. But in theory, the highest amount of, even for the really rich person, realistically, the most amount of children you can efficiently have, where you effectively convey your mindset, is about 30 children. At that point, past that, it's going to be hard to actually convey your mindset to these children and make sure they are actively focused on the right thing. You may be able to do 50, but I mean, you're not going to be able to do 100,000, for example. Like, there's limitations of scale because you're only one person. You can only teach so much. Plus, it's not physically possible to have that many children and manage it and actually, like, take care of all the mothers and all that bullshit. So, we've established that child rearing is an ineffective way. There needs to be a more efficient way. I think in the near future, if you think about it and you extend the lifespan, extend for the next 30, 40 years, there is probably going to be a more efficient way of having there has to be a more efficient way. What I'm saying is, currently, method is very inefficient. If you want to conquer the galaxy, you're going to need millions upon millions of people. A single human having 20 or 30 children is not going to really, make a dent, When we have galaxies and galaxies to explore, we need an effective method to propagate hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of humans with the same mindset. Because the problem is, if I have children, they're going to have the same mindset as me. We need to find the meaning. But if other people have children, they may not have the same mindset. Their entire goal of life is just to be happy, which is basically the equivalent of a wasted life. So those children are probably not going to want to explore the universe and understand the nature of the universe. So we need 1 million children per day looking to scale to the universe. And even that may not be enough. So how do we do that in modern days perspectives? You really need more technology and more knowledge. Okay, so that side of having a relationship is basically out. The other side of having a relationship is like you want like somebody to emotionally, be there for you, and maybe this person is very has aligned interests. So it's like a 1 + 1 = 15 effect, where separately you're not as effective, but together you're way more effective. Okay, so for me personally, I don't feel like going through the entire whole bullshit of experimenting and going and trying to meet like 1,000 different women to find that one person that's going to multiplier effect, when I can just do that to myself. If I simply do my tasks, create the right habits, and do better, then I will effectively scale my own productivity and my knowledge and my skills, which effectively scales productivity. Okay. So we've established the point, we've established the goal, we established why relationships, how there's 2 real main objectives in a relationship. One is to satisfy your evolutionarily designed emotions, and the other side is to rear more children, and so that we can scale and conquer the universe. Okay, so both of those, scale and conquer the universe, it's pretty ineffective. Children take too long from the modern day methods. Okay, the second thing is emotionally satisfying. Well, it's not really required. It's not required. The emotion thing, not required. Okay. So, now that gets to our next point. Okay, why am I even bringing this up all of a sudden? Well, I think I kind of talked about it in the start of the video, but I like to analyze major decisions, and I see a lot of people making this decision where they try to search for a relationship, especially a lot of guys my age, right? Because I don't know. Recently in the gym, I've been talking to a lot of guys, and all they seem to talk about is they're working out and then trying to get girls. That's it. I'm like, bro, we need to conquer the universe, and you're out here. Oh yeah, that girl was pretty. Like, bro, what the hell's wrong with you? What the hell's wrong with you? Okay, so this is what I obviously don't say that, but in my head I'm like, bro, such childish ambitions. Even I think to myself, because the human brain is obviously evolutionarily designed to desire certain things, because that is more likely to create another child, which is more likely to propagate the species. So you still have those evolutionarily designed desires. We have to break those desires. And I obviously find myself time to time thinking about those evolutionary desires. And those are terrible. You have to break them the second they come in. Obviously, you're not going to be perfect in, I'm by no means perfect, and I always make mistakes. But I try to recognize when those desires come in and try to break them. But anyway, so, okay, two things. First, if a lot of people are doing something, it's probably not the right thing to do. Here's why. Okay, if 99%, if you're trying to be like the 1%, right? Whether you're trying to be rich, whether you're trying to be like jacked, whether you're trying to, be successful in any endeavor, if you try to follow what 99% of people are doing, you're going to end up like what the 99% of people are, which is not the top in whatever you're trying to accomplish, if you understand what I'm saying. It's not excellence. Okay, if you're aspiring for excellence and you're looking at other people as a base of reference, you are never going to accomplish excellence, if that makes sense. So, by definition, if you want to be like the 1%, you can't do what 99% of other people are doing. So, I guess that was the first point. Second point, ideology being more cancerous than cancer itself. I was thinking about this, and it's true. The most toxic thing in the entire world is ideology. And here's why. An idea, right? An idea can simply destroy a person an idea can destroy more people and can kill more people than a sword, than a gun, than a nuclear bomb, than even the world ending. Here's why. First of all, if you can convince somebody to not try something, or let's just say somebody's a really good swimmer, right? And they want to become an Olympic level swimmer. But you meet them at, let's just say they're 15 years of age, if they're 15 years old, okay? And they're looking to be an Olympic level swimmer, and they practice every single day, and they're super duper great, okay? If you can convince them that they're never going to make it, whether or not they can make it is an irrelevant factor. You have convinced them that they cannot make it. So what destroyed them? It's not the fact that they couldn't make it. It's the fact that their ideology did not allow them to make it, if that makes sense. Okay? Just an idea can stop somebody from even trying, right? Just an idea. Okay, well, I guess a perfect example is Nazism. Okay? An ideology convinced an entire, well, really it was a subsect of the SS, but an ideology convinced a subsect of people that destroying an entire other subsect of people was the necessary outcome. Was a good idea. Good in the sense that was going to promote the German ambitions and the German race. And they convinced that set of people with an ideology to do that. So all you needed to really do was convince the people, right, with an idea. All those things are just ideas. The idea that you could accomplish X is simply an idea, right? It's an idea in your head. Everything is just an idea. So, okay, I said idea enough now. I think if you don't understand, then I'm sorry. I'm pretty terrible at conveying this type of stuff. But if you kind of understand what I'm saying, an ideology can be more cancerous than cancer itself. If you have a toxic ideology and one that does not allow you to push forward, you will stunt yourself from ever making progress, regardless of if he could have made progress. That kid could have become an Olympic level swimmer, but because he was convinced himself, like somebody told him, hey, you're never going to do it, he convinced himself that was going to be true and decided never to pursue it. But in theory, who knows what could have happened? Okay, so now we've established that ideology is the most cancerous thing of them all. Okay. So, this next subject is just simply a perspective. Okay? It's the perspective of this. Humanity has a I'll just say this. Humanity has a productive output. Okay? Humanity's productive output can be guided in any certain direction, if that makes sense. So let's just say you can gauge this from the individual perspective. Okay? Let's just say a cattle farm, right? A bunch of cows on a farm. Okay? Those cows make milk. They're cows, so they're livestock, which means they are bred for the single purpose of gaining milk and or gaining meat. Correct? Correct. So, if you are the owner of this cattle farm, you can direct this productivity in any way. By that I mean, assume you get all that milk. You sell that milk. You now have capital. You can use that capital in any direction you want. You can scale the farm. Maybe you want more cows. You can build a bigger house for yourself. Maybe you want a bigger house. You can do whatever you want, right? There's a million different things you can do, obviously, and you get to choose whatever you want to do. Okay. Humanity, if you look at it from this perspective, most of humanity is essentially a productivity farm for those in charge. Okay. By that I mean, what do I mean? So, countries well, really, it's a lot of individuals that are at the top of these, top of major companies, are able to capitalize on productivity, right? And productivity being humans doing a job, they reproduce themselves because they fall in love with other humans. They reproduce themselves, and then they scale productivity and end up working and using their resources to power the machine that if you're in charge of, you get to control the direction of. For example, and this is not a negative thing, this is a positive thing, it's a very good thing, because if every individual cattle had their own goals and objectives and could scale their own productivity, it would be a disorganized mess. It would look like the jungle, right? When you go to the jungle, there's a reason that nothing is cohesive, nothing is in unison, and nothing ever comes out of it. It's just simply eat, die, kill cycle, right? This thing eats this thing eats this, and then just dies, and this eats this. It's just simply a cycle that never ends, right? This tree grows, it dies. This tree grows, it dies. This thing grows, it dies. But smart humans were able to capitalize on the collectivism, scale productivity to expand civilization. So it's not a bad thing, it's a very good thing. Okay, so for anybody who's like some weird socialist and thinks it's a bad thing, no, it's not, it's a good thing. Anyway, so people in charge of scaling productivity are able to use productivity in whatever method they see fit. Okay, so they could use this productivity and capital and resources to get us closer to, whatever, finding the meaning or doing whatever, or, expanding their productivity, base by, expanding their shits. You understand what I'm saying? Expanding the company, right? But they get to control the direction in which the productivity goes. So basically the reason I'm even bringing this up is because the most important thing is to be in charge of a large productivity machine, is what I'm saying. And the reason you need to be in charge of this is because you need to have resources in order to accomplish your objective. It doesn't matter whether your objective is to build a bigger house or to, give money to the poor or whatever you want an objective to be. If you can scale productivity, right, through the means of other humans and machinery and technology, you can effectively direct productivity and capital into any problem you see fit. If you don't like a certain thing about the world, if you are in charge of a large conglomerate of productivity, you are able to direct those resources into solving any problem. So it is of utmost importance that anybody that is watching this video focuses on developing their productivity. And you can do that on an individual level through technology, through skills, and through capital. And you can also do that from like a perspective of, you can scale it through humans, you can scale it through like a company, right? You can build your own company or whatever. But at the end of the day, you can view humanity as a productivity farm, right? And obviously the humans, reproduce with other humans to create more productive engines, and then it simply scales the productivity engine. And then technology is built, which scales humanity even further. Every piece of technology ever built has allowed humans to do more and more, which, increases the size of the pie, for example, and the productivity engine. Basically what I'm saying is everything is designed to solve problems. And it's just one giant problem, which is the universe, that needs to be solved bit by bit. So yeah, I guess the farm makes it look like, oh, humans are like cattle. That's what I'm trying to say, but that's not what I'm trying to say at all. I'm saying humans are effectively productivity engines, and we, as a conglomerate, are scaling productivity, especially with technology, and that is able to be guided and used to find the meaning. So I hope that wasn't too complicated, and I understand that this is probably a very, very annoying video to watch, but let's get on to the next subject, which is, my opinion may change. So I guess to summarize everything, okay, my opinion may change. We'll get into that in a second. Let's just summarize everything we talked about. We talked about, well, first of all, I'll just go back to front. We talked about how ideology can be very corruptive, how humanity is like a farm, but not like cattle, more like productivity engines, and the end goal is to find the meaning. And yeah, and then I think I talked about some other stuff, like what is the point of a relationship? Oh yeah, I talked about, how in general, there's probably about two major points in being in a relationship, and if neither of those points are really acquired, then the relationship is essentially just wasting time. We talked about that. And then, yeah. So, how this relates to me? This relates to me because I've thought about the subject a lot, because again, people around me tend to pursue relationships, and I question whether it is even worthwhile. And my answer is, at this current age that I am at, and with my current mindset, it is no. But that may change. Anything may change. Time changes everything. So, who knows what's going to happen in the future? I'm making this video because I think it's important. I don't know what my beliefs will be in the future. Maybe they'll change. Maybe I'll gain new intelligence and I'll learn that, hey, wait, there's a tertiary objective of having a relationship, and that is this. But I don't know that, and I'm not sure, and it's a work in progress, and we need to find the meaning. And the next video I post will be about real estate stuff. So if you think that this video is trash, please watch the next one so that you get to see real estate stuff instead of this. All right, let's go on to the next video.